I don't know who you are, but I do know what you need. I can tell you, I know some gentlemen with a very particular set of skills. Skills they have attained over a long career of studying tape and statistics. Skills they want to share to make you a nightmare for the rest of your league. Head over to www.ultimatedraftkit.com and order it right now. You will be prepared for your draft. Your league will be frightened of you. And you will kill them.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from Draft.com Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Oh, it's Thursday. Yes, it is.
That's the day of the week.
What the calendar says. This is the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. I am Andy Holloway, joined, as always, now and forever, by Mike, the Fantasy Hitman Wright, and Jason Moore.
Oh, I sure hope it's now and forever.
This is show 591.
Did you know?
My favorite number, 591.
Well, that's quite a bit of trivia, but also a bit of trivia. The English word Thursday is named after the Norse god of thunder, Thor.
Oh, Thursday.
You came for fantasy football.
Ironic.
And you got knowledge.
Well, we're bringing the hammer today, so it makes perfect sense.
Oh!
We've got busts.
We are bringing the hammer.
We're bringing the hammer. We've got 2 busts each we're going to reveal on the show. We had the Breakouts episode on Tuesday. This is our busts episode. I mean, you can't have one without the other. Jason's slowly nodding.
I agree.
Seemed like he was going to contribute.
You must bring balance to the force.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking, you had mentioned we have 2 busts each. It's not true, because I'm bringing you 2.5 busts.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh. Anything you can do, I can do better.
That's about half a bust more than I expected.
Yeah. I've just upped it to 5. Whoa. I'm just going to start throwing names out.
Just random names.
Le'Veon Bell.
Now, if you have the Ultimate Draft Kit, you know our sleepers, breakouts, busts, values. Our consensus picks are all in the Ultimate Draft Kit. We update that all offseason. If you haven't drafted yet and you don't have it, get it. You'll find those lists in there along with player projections, along with player profile videos, all of our rankings, and a ton of other resources. Matt Harmon's reception perception. Always updated, always ready to go. And there were a lot of people that bought it for the first time this year.
Yeah,
that were listeners for like 2 or 3 years.
Oh, and they're dominating. Yeah, we've gotten a lot of feedback this year of like, I thought about it last year. I've never bought this before, and they got it. And they go, wow, this is no joke. This is a really helpful tool. So,
they say after show 591, that's when it's the tipping point.
It's the moment.
For the Ultimate Draft Kit.
Wait, so you're saying today is the day?
Yes.
Today is the day they need to get it and dominate. Awesome.
Now, on the show today, we're kind of revealing busts that we ourselves are convicted about.
Right.
Not necessarily consensus busts.
Certainly not, because one from each of you is stupid.
Yes, because we disagree with you.
Yes.
Which makes us stupid. Follow us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. You'll know everything going on with the podcast. Head over to YouTube, youtube.com/thefantasyfootballers. Do you know we're just creeping up to that 100,000 subscriber number? You know that.
On the YouTube?
On the YouTube. I feel like we need people to jump in there. You're going to get, if you click the bell, you'll get notified when we do live streams. We're going to do one either today or tomorrow.
Foot Clan, it's a race to the season. Will the season get here before we hit 100,000 subscribers or not? It's up to you.
Thank you.
That's true. I've subscribed. I've done my part.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Me too.
Quick question of the day. What position battles are you watching most for week 3 of the preseason? Tonight, we have the Browns and Eagles.
Ooh.
Kicking off week 3. I'm excited. There's something less, I don't know. There's something nice about one game going on tonight. It's been...
is it really only one?
I think there is. Just one, right, Brooks?
He's nodding.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's one. So we get to watch. I had a nightmare last night, by the way, before we answer this question. So think about what battle you're watching in week 3.
Was it you were watching the Cleveland Browns on a Thursday night?
It was very tied into the Browns because I think I had a nightmare.
Oh, Baker, week 2.
No.
Yes.
I had a nightmare.
Yes.
I had a nightmare that it was Baker week 1.
Oh, yeah.
I had a nightmare that that everything goes according to plan, and then they run out on the field for snap one, and it's Baker Mayfield.
Oh, they've been playing the rope-a-dope all
not
offseason.
Tyrod Taylor.
Oh,
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was my nightmare. But what are you most excited to watch? For me, it's there's a number of things. I obviously love watching the rookie quarterbacks. Week 3 is the opportunity to see the very most normally from the starters, although in recent years some teams just have thrown that out the window. So I want to see what happens in the backfield in Detroit, to be honest with you. I want to see who comes out, in what order. Do we still get Amir Abdullah first out on the field?
Yeah, stop that.
Yeah, that's strange, right? And so I'm excited to see how that plays out. What do you guys think?
That's a great one. For me, I really am going to be focused on everything, but Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, the battle, everything out of camp talked about, and not just recently. I know there was the sleeper news alert this morning talking about how Sammy Watkins and Pat Mahomes are starting to sync up. But it's not just today. I mean, all off season, I saw film from training camp where it looked like they had a great rapport. And then the 2 preseason games we've seen so far, Sammy Watkins has been irrelevant, while Tyreek Hill looks like he's got a great thing going with Pat Mahomes. So I don't want to swing the pendulum too far, too fast on anything. So today, or this weekend, week 3, the main dress rehearsal for preseason, that's one that I'm going to be watching, because if it's 3 in a row of it is the Tyreek show, I will be forced to adjust my rankings more significantly.
I'm going to be watching quite closely the competition between the Arizona Cardinals and the Dallas Cowboys for a couple different things.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see, in an extended amount of time, where does Dak go? Who is he throwing to? Who becomes his primary target? Because the Dallas wide receiver situation is murky at best. Does Allen Hurns establish himself? Does Michael Gallup
trot to the lead?
Kick the door open and say, I'm the wide receiver 1 on this team, because these guys are going low in drafts. And then on the other side of the ball, the Cardinals have the exact same situation with their wide receiver 2. Is it going to be
Christian
Kirk? Could it be Chad Williams? So I think it's very interesting that you have a couple situations here that could settle themselves in just one game.
Before we move on from this question, I think another one that is very important to watch is the Indianapolis backfield with Marlon Mack hurt, Robert Turbin both hurt and suspended.
Yeah, will the woke one actually start?
Or will Jordan Wilkins show that he's ready to take it from a 3-down SEC back to the NFL?
And to circle back on Dallas, it's interesting because Michael Gallup's ADP has actually dropped around in the last week.
Really?
Yeah, because he had the touchdown preseason week 1, and then he had the involvement without a touchdown preseason week 2. He's down around. I think the safest player in the wide receiver core is Terrence Williams. But he's not exciting. He's not fun. You don't want to start him. Like, you want the upside. But if you could get Dallas's number 1 wide receiver in the 14th round, that's pretty crazy, because someone will emerge. It's going to happen. All right, let's get into the news.
News and notes from around the league.
We have a couple of pretty significant injury updates to let you know about that are going to affect your fantasy football rosters. We'll start in Dallas. Center Travis Frederick, who Pro Football Focus graded out as the 3rd highest center grade, 4-time Pro Bowler, played 16 games in all 5 seasons he's been a member of the National Football League. Big news yesterday, he's been diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease, and the timetable for him to return is very unclear. Guys, what have you heard? Because I know Mark Schlereth dealt with this. What have you heard about the timetable for Travis Frederick, one of the best offensive linemen in football, on one of the best offensive lines in football?
Yeah, it is. It's not good. I mean, the reports are that he might miss a couple weeks. He could be ready for week 1. What Mark Schlereth talked about was that it took him well over a year before he was himself, even when he wasn't missing games. Talked about how he basically had no feeling in his arms and legs, and that's pretty crazy. And Pro Football Doc, Dr. Chow, one of the most respected guys, he said he's more likely to miss the entire season than he is to be ready for week 1. So I think you have to look at this as a downgrade for the offensive line. If week 1 comes out and you don't have Travis Frederick and you don't have Zach Martin, if he's not ready, all of a sudden you go from one of the best offensive lines in the league to one of the biggest changes overnight. And Dak.
The problem with Dak is if you ask him to do too much, it doesn't end well.
No, not at all.
Correct.
I mean, we saw, last year you lose Tyron Smith and their left tackle. Oh my goodness, Dak collapsed. So it's worrisome.
And that's just on a personal note for Travis Frederick. It's unfortunate he's going to have to deal with this. This is a major issue. I mean, this is something where your nerves are being attacked by your immune system, and you get numbness and you get weakness and all those things. So very unfortunate. Some news bent the wrong direction for Bears tight end Adam Shaheen. He's out indefinitely now with foot and ankle injuries. If you listen to head coach Mike Nagy talk about this.
Matt, did you say Mike?
I don't know if I said Mike. Did I say Mike?
Matt, whatever.
I think he said Matt.
Thanks, Mike.
Sorry, I'm playing injured over here.
Yeah, Mike is down.
I'm under the weather, but this is just too important to miss this show.
Adam Shaheen, they followed up with an MRI yesterday, and what the MRI revealed was that it's more than an ankle injury. It actually extends into the foot. He denied the fact that it was like a Lisfranc injury, but it's right now it's like wait and see. It's a foot sprain, wait and see, could be out indefinitely. I didn't like the tone that he had in the interview. It did not sound like Adam Shaheen was going to be really involved. And people need to know, like week 1 of the preseason, Shaheen had like 3 catches for 53 yards. It was only in week 2 that Trey Burton broke out, so to speak, and was more involved with Shaheen off the field. It's just going to be interesting to see. And if Shaheen misses time, it's just a bump up for Trey Burton, Trey Boo-Boo, one of the my guys for Mr. Moore.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Pete Carroll said that Ed Dickson is questionable for week 1.
Yeah,
Nick Vannett is a name that people need to know about.
Tight end.
From what I understand, looking a little bit deeper at the injury and the timetable and all of that, I expect Ed Dickson to miss week 1. So Nick Vannett will be involved. I mean, you saw this preseason. He is an absolute one of the first reads in that offense, and I would say, look, I'm not going to draft him in a redraft league, but if you're playing DFS and you want a cheap tight end option, Nick Vannett is not going to cost you hardly anything for week 1, and he will be involved for that week at least.
Mike, Nick Vannett or Doyle?
Doyle by a lot.
Okay.
But we do know that tight ends come out of nowhere. This is just what happens, and there's a lot of opportunity. Look at all those Jimmy Graham targets, Jimmy Graham touchdowns. Now, I'm not projecting all of those onto Nick Vannett, but that's a huge opportunity for a player that they invested a pretty high draft pick in him a couple years ago.
And he's looked good in preseason.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's go ahead and jump into our bus.
Bus.
All right, busts are always an interesting topic because people define them differently. I always look at a bust in fantasy football to be a player that vastly underperforms relative to their draft value. You draft them with an expectation, and this can be anybody. This could be, we see every year in the first round you have players that bust, right? You draft them to be a top-tier running back, wide receiver. They perform like maybe a wide receiver too. Is that a bust? For some it is. For someone like Mike Evans, is he a bust last year? Or is he I'm very disappointed in you, son?
I think it's just a disappointment.
All right. Well, we've each picked out 2 guys that we've identified as bust candidates for 2018. Let's go ahead and kick it off with Mike. Mike, who do you have as a potential bust this year and why?
All right, I'm just going to get it out of the way because he's up on the wall.
Ooh.
That is JuJu Smith-Schuster. I think he is going to disappoint people. Currently in Fantasy Football Calculator going in the middle of the 4th round. He is the wide receiver 16.
Wow.
That's
top end.
And here are the problems. I mean, it's draft price. That's the biggest problem. Big Ben, in his illustrious career, has supported 2 top 16 wide receivers once. One time. Now, maybe your argument is the talent for JuJu. I mean, okay, that's not really a tangible, we can break things down argue. It's just you either believe in the player or you don't. And
when he throws the ball, it can only go to one player at a time.
Exactly. And we know Antonio Brown is going to be, if he's on the field, he's the number 1 wide receiver. We know Le'Veon Bell, if he's on the field, is a top 2 running back, and they're going to command targets.
I'm going to tweet JuJu real quick, let him know what you're saying.
And it pains me because I love the player. I think he is extremely talented, but the wide receiver 16 off the board is just egregious. Last year, this is a stat I talk about frequently, and it kind of refers to efficiency, and it's where a player finishes in their targets compared to where they finish in fantasy points. Last year, players of the top 50 in top 50 of targets, the person who outproduced their target finish, number 2, was Tyreek Hill, meaning he finished 15 spots higher in fantasy points than he did in targets. Number 1. So that's number 2. That's the second highest discrepancy, was Tyreek Hill at 15. JuJu was 29 spots higher
double.
in his fantasy finish compared to where he was in targets. Now, you can choose to read that how you want to. I read that as JuJu vastly outproduced his opportunity. His opportunity will surely increase this year, but to finish at 51st in wide receiver targets, but you were wide receiver 22 on the season.
Going to need some 90-yarders.
You're going to need some 90-yard touchdowns. So I'm not buying into JuJu at his price. What he does have, what he does offer you, is if something were to happen to Antonio Brown, JuJu becomes what?
Top
top 5 wide receiver in the league. I will acquiesce that is built. That's part of who JuJu offers you, or what he offers you as a fantasy player.
So
but if everything goes to plan for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I just don't see him giving you value as the wide receiver 16 off the board.
So do you think that the reason he's being drafted that high at wide receiver 16 is because Antonio Brown is on the cover of Madden then? No, I will admit I need to weigh in here because I've been such a supporter of JuJu. I think his talent is unquestionable, but I completely agree that he is being overdrafted. He was in consideration for my guys, and the reason I could not select him was because he's being drafted pretty much at his ceiling, barring an Antonio Brown injury. Look, if you're the wide receiver 16, that's great. You had a phenomenal year. But, that is his ceiling as the second or third target, really, if you include Le'Veon Bell.
Right.
In that offense, it's just going to be his talent is there, but he's being overdrafted right now. So, for where you're getting him, I can somewhat get behind the bust.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Doesn't make me happy.
It doesn't make me happy.
Sometimes a star burns too bright, and it hurts your average draft position.
Look, they go supernova, and then they just turn into
Stop getting touchdowns in preseason.
I was going to say, he did that too. I'm going to bring you my bust. It's Jimmy Garoppolo.
Graham.
No.
it.
Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Handsome. You know what's not handsome to me? It's the QB 10 draft price you're paying for Jimmy Garoppolo.
That's all in.
I don't love the schedule. He gets to play the Rams a couple of times this year, the Cardinals a couple of times. He's got a Broncos matchup on the schedule. I don't love it. Last year in the 5 games of impressing the world, 7 touchdowns. 7 touchdowns in 5 games. That's not going to get it done in fantasy either. I'm simply hesitant. And when I look at that roster, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to pick people apart between the 20s. I still don't see the red zone weapon on that team, right? Marquise Goodwin, all the hype. Well, yeah, he's going to get some long touchdowns. Pierre Garçon's never been more than a 4 or 5 touchdown guy.
Right.
Jerick McKinnon out of the backfield, he's not going to bang it into the. I just don't see where the red zone efficiency is going to come from. He's being overdrafted because people love the talent, and I think he's a great quarterback. I don't know if it's going to translate to top 12 fantasy performance this year. There are a lot of quarterbacks I like more. There's so much hype around Jimmy Handsome. I'm going to pass. I'm going to pass on Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I don't blame you. We'll talk in a minute about a counterpart that I think is going to be a bust, but I'll hold off on him for now. Look, it couldn't be a bust show. It could not be a bust show if I didn't put on hate blockers.
You're already going to the glasses? I feel like
this was the original hate blocker moment where I had to wear these shades, and because I was wearing them, I felt like I could just say whatever I really believed, and I didn't have to worry about repercussions because nobody can see me. I'm wearing the sunglasses.
The window to your soul has been – you got the shutters down.
Right.
Yep.
And so I declared that Ronald Jones was a bust because I really believe – I didn't like his tape in college. I didn't think he could run through the tackles at his size, and he didn't catch the ball in college, and so I thought he was going to be a bust. I say he's just an honorary mention now because the problem is he's sucked so much in camp and in preseason, and Peyton Barber's been great. That his average, what is he, like the 30th running back being taken right now?
I see him go higher, though. People get tempted with that name. And here's the thing. Just be careful. Be careful about that victory lap through 2 preseason games. Just
certainly.
Be cautious. But who's your real bust?
Yeah, my real...
For Ronald Jones, just real quick, if you can check out Adam Spinks is the running back scout. What he does is he looks at running backs, and he had a great thread this morning where he broke down every single one of Ronald Jones' carries. And I'm with Jason on the side of I am worried about Ronald Jones being a bust. But when you break down every preseason carry this season, the offensive line is for, especially when Ronald Jones is playing, has been
I watched that
horrendous.
I watched that thread. The offensive line has been bad, but my issue with Ronald Jones is that he will not be a pass catcher, and he's not a goal line back.
And what
is he going to be for fantasy football? Yeah,
from his running back coach.
The running back coach said something along the lines of, I guess there was a reason they didn't use him as a pass-catching back in college, which they didn't, and it's because he can't catch the ball. But anyways, my real, actual bust.
Bust is the word you're looking for.
I'm going to go with Greg Olsen.
What? Wow.
Offensive coordinator for the
yes, Greg Olsen, offensive coordinator for the Oakland Raiders. No, nobody
that would have
expects
been a
anything
great
good out of him.
pick, by the way. That would have been funny.
I agree. But similar to Ronald Jones, just too low of equity given to Greg Olsen. Now, Greg Olsen, a perennial top 3 tight end, a tried and true workhorse tight end, if there is such a thing, is going to be
this is just
a
so
bust.
Disrespectful.
I don't think it is disrespectful because I'm acknowledging his long and illustrious great career. I've always been a fan of Greg Olsen and what he's done, but he is going to turn 34 years old this year. And if you look at his usage this past season, I shared this on a recent episode, but I don't think people remember what he was doing when he was on the field prior to the injury. This is healthy. I mean, it wasn't like he was kind of injured and then he got surgery. He got injured in 1 game. Before that, he was healthy. Here were his healthy first 3 games. 2 receptions for 18 yards. 1 reception for 10 yards. 1 reception for 10 yards. Again.
He was just getting ready to get injured.
And then he got injured. Then he comes back, has this big monster game, but after that one, 3 for 27, and another one of his trick, 1 for 10.
That's his trick?
That was his trick.
1 for 10
he had
was
3 games of 1 reception for 10 yards. He got a first down, I hope, so long as it was no pre-penalty. My point is his utilization dropped. He is coming off of an injury that has a 20% chance of needing that second surgery. We've seen it with all sorts of great NFL players. And then you add in the fact that, well, they now have other weapons. They have DJ Moore. They have another year of rapport with Devin Funchess. I don't think they need to use him that much. Torrey Smith. Curtis Samuel even looks good in preseason. And then on top of all of that, let's just say, okay, maybe his utilization comes down a little bit more, but tight ends are important for what reason? What do they do around that goal line? They get the touchdowns. They give you the big weeks. That's never been Greg Olsen's thing. He averages, and I'm not talking about his Chicago career. Since he's been in Carolina, he averages 5 touchdowns per 16 games.
He's traditionally been a yardage tight end.
Exactly. So I just think you're drafting a name, and I'm not saying he's going to just be terrible this year, get injured in week 2, and never be a producer. I think he's being overdrafted because of his name, and he will disappoint you. There's better options like Trey Boo.
All right. Hey, before we move on to the rest of the bus, I want to thank NFL Game Pass for sponsoring today's show. Only with NFL Game Pass do you get every out-of-market preseason game live, including tonight's game. You get to see those rookies we talk about, comeback players, new teams. That's always fun in the preseason. Hasn't been as fun with Sammy, but maybe tonight or this weekend. Maybe that's the time when they sync up. It all happens in the preseason live with NFL Game Pass. We talked about all the things we're excited to watch. And look, you can watch them all live. So make sure you watch all the action, see if Baker Mayfield can win that starting job somehow, whether Jordy Nelson fits in, Kirk Cousins, does he take the Vikings to the next level? Watch it all on Game Pass, especially if you're out of market. Best of all, you can kick off the 2018 NFL season with a 7-day free trial of NFL Game Pass. Sign up now at NFL.com/fantasyfootballers. That's NFL.com/fantasyfootballers. Game on.
We'd like to thank FanDuel for sponsoring today's show. The wait is nearly over. Football is almost here. That means it's fantasy football season, and FanDuel has never been more fun or easy to play. If you are not a fantasy expert, don't worry. FanDuel's got you covered. They have things for everyone because they have more ways to win than ever before. Let me ask you how this sounds. Foot Clan, this season, FanDuel is running a free $250,000 Survivor contest. This is the biggest free Survivor contest ever. And here's how that works. You pick one team to win each week. You can't reuse that team for the rest of the season. And then if you get to the end, you win a whole bunch of money.
I just entered it yesterday.
I did as well.
Look, this locks before week 1, so don't miss your chance to sign up now to get into that free $250,000 Survivor contest. Just go to FanDuel.com/footballers. That's FanDuel.com/footballers. Plus, new users, hey, you're going to get $20 bonus when you make your first deposit on FanDuel. Come play at FanDuel.com/footballers.
All right, let's continue down this bust train. Mike, I think you're up.
Fair enough. And another wide receiver who I believe will not return value on his draft position, it's Brandin Cooks. Now, this is sketchy. Sketchy. Banking and betting against a guy with Brandin Cooks' production, and he has turned into a dog. He is so angry with this pick, and it's simply a matter of opportunity for Brandin Cooks. Here are his targets the past 3 seasons. 129 targets, 117 targets, 114 targets.
Sounds pretty good.
So he's getting a big piece of that pie on a very high-volume passing offenses. Last season, the Rams' target leader was Cooper Kupp with 94. 94. Todd Gurley was second on the team with 87 targets. The offense just spreads things around far too much for Brandin Cooks to get up in that 120 target area, which he's going to need if he's going to finish as a top 18 wide receiver who you're drafting at the back of the 4th round. Yes, he's going to give you splash weeks. I won't argue against that. He's going to have games where he gets you a 50-yard touchdown. That's who Brandin Cooks is. But I don't think he's going to get a consistent enough opportunity to really return on that draft price. Yes, the Rams went all in on Brandin Cooks. They traded a first-round pick to give him. They gave him a monster contract extension before he even played it down for the team. To me, that doesn't automatically equal that Brandin Cooks is a dominant fantasy force. He's going to be great for the Rams. He's great for that offense. But there's just not enough passing volume to go around with all the targets of Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Todd Gurley. And I haven't even gotten into the tight ends who can possibly emerge on this team, like Mount Everett. So I'm worried about Brandin Cooks. I'm worried about him being able to produce what we have seen. And on top of that, Brandin Cooks has not played a single season without a first-ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. And I'm not ready to give Jared Goff the title. King Goff.
Come on.
He's the king.
You can do it. Call your shot.
He is the king. He
First
is King
ballot.
Goffrey. But as of right now,
did you say first ballot?
he is not a first-ballot Hall of Fame quarterback.
Come on. You know you want to.
Come on.
Come on.
I do not.
This is how I've been trying to make trades lately.
Is that how you-
When they say no, I just keep asking.
Yeah, that's the
Do it.
Come
Do
on.
it. Do it.
That's the Peter Griffin.
There
Come
you go.
on.
All right. Jason, I'm sorry. But I'm sticking to my guns here. I said this early in the offseason. This player is one I'm risking being wrong on. Like, there is a world where he is not a bust. He is not a disappointment. He outperforms expectations. But he's a bust to me right now, and that's Kenyan Drake. I don't think he returns the value for where you're drafting him, which is at the back of the 3rd or top of the 4th round, as the RB 18, 19, 20. Kenyan Drake exploded last year. He is electricity. There's a great play he made in the preseason. He turned, he took the handoff. He was breaking to the left. The offensive line got blown up, which I think you're going to see a little bit of this year. And he reverse field, got the edge, turned it into a 20, 30-yard gain. He is electricity. Frank Gore, he's a candle, right? He's a candle in the darkness, just
He is infinite.
ancient,
He is
lighting
Gore.
the room his own special way.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it took me a while too, but I just caught up.
I was like burning
just saying,
on
okay,
both ends.
the power, the electricity is nice, but the power can go out. You can always,
you can always lean on a candle.
You know, they do run out,
Yeah.
like the wax.
Well, he's a very, very long candle.
It's a very long candle.
But here's my point. I'm not expecting Frank Gore. This is his sunset time, right? Like, he's back in Miami. He's supporting of Kenyan Drake. It wasn't all roses for Kenyan Drake last year. If you look at the metrics, he was the second worst running back in football of 34 qualified running backs in terms of catch percentage. On 48 targets, he only caught 32 of those passes. You can blame that on whomever you want to. I don't think Ryan Tannehill is the fix for Kenyan Drake's catch percentage. You do have Frank Gore involved. It gets me uncomfortable, and you have what I would define as a bad team problem. Only one of the top 8 running backs last year came from a losing team. That was Shady McCoy. All the rest were on winning teams, and I don't project Miami to be a winning team. I'm sorry, Dolphins fans. It's just how I project it. Not everybody's a winning team every year. I don't think Miami's a winning team this year. They may surprise me. Drake may surprise me.
He will.
But in the end, there's an inconsistency problem with a committee to me. I don't think that Drake is going to deliver on that value. He may, but I don't think he will.
This has to be the first, and who knows, maybe the last time ever, that on back-to-back shows we go from breakout to bust and have the same player in both. But that's one of I think one of the values of this show is that we're independent thinkers. You know, we're not just regurgitating our own thoughts. So now you get both sides. You get to see the pros of Kenyan Drake that I made on last episode and the cons of Kenyan Drake that Andy's making here, and that's what we want to do. We want to equip you guys and gals to hear the information, discern it yourself, and make your pick. You're running the teams. And when all those hashtag Foot Clan titles come out and people say, oh, man, it was because of that ultimate draft kit. It was because of your pocket. No, it's because of you. You did it. You made those start sits. All right. I'm up.
All right.
Also, Kenyan Drake's great. I'm going to go with a bust who has just been the new hotness. I mean, Twitter's ablaze with love for this guy. He's a lock for 1,220,000 touchdowns.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Well, his quarterback is super handsome. Also, look, you called Jimmy Garoppolo a bust, and I think Marquise Goodwin is going to be a bust. And I'm actually pretty confident in this one. When you look, and this is nothing against him. I like Marquise Goodwin. I'm rooting for him. Unlike some players when I'm really against them. I'm rooting for them to fail.
Like Rojo?
Yeah, I mean, that was who came to mind. But Marquise Goodwin, I'm rooting for him. I think he's a talented player, and I hope he performs well. But there are too many things out there that just logic, math, and obvious analysis says, whoa, hold your horses here, people. He's being drafted as a wide receiver 2. Okay, he is already being drafted in the 5th round ahead of really good wide receivers. I mean, you're talking about You're taking him over Allen Robinson, the clear-cut number 1. You're taking him over Andy loves Brandin Cooks. Marvin Jones, last year's number 9 wide receiver. You're taking him over Alshon Jeffrey. A lot of great guys. Here's his career high in receptions. His career high in receptions, which came last year, is 56. Okay, now he's getting better and he's developing a new rapport with the quarterback, so I get it. Let's give him a career high. But the reality is he's still a field stretcher. That's his role. He's a Deshaun Jackson type. He's not gonna be an 80 reception type of wide receiver. He's just not. He's going to be the 60, 62.
You're talking about Deshaun Jackson, who had 82 receptions in 2013?
That was a different system of Deshaun Jackson. that was before. That was when he was, a middle of the field guy. But also keep in mind, this career high that Goodwin got last year of 56, that was without Pierre Garçon. And say whatever you want about, no, Goodwin is the wide receiver 1. Great, that's fine. Let's say he is the wide receiver 1 this year. It doesn't change the fact that Pierre Garçon is still going to be getting targets, and he wasn't there last year. Now you look at, okay, it's got to be touchdowns. Touchdowns have to come, because if you look at the wide receivers who finish as a wide receiver 2 year in and year out, they're averaging up like 75 receptions, or the very, very few guys that have a low reception total. Like, there's only 2 last year, JuJu and Alshon Jeffrey. They had 7 and 8 touchdowns each. Are the San Francisco 49ers going to be, one of those powerhouse offenses like the Eagles were, like the Steelers were, that can get those low reception total guys those touchdowns? Now, look, if Goodwin were to go out there, play the whole season, get 65 receptions and 7 touchdowns for well over 1,000 yards, he will be a wide receiver 2. But that's his ceiling. That you're drafting him at his ceiling, and that is to say nothing of what I think the biggest concern is. This guy has a real risk of injury, and I'm rooting for it to never, ever, ever happen. I don't want him to get injured, but I believe he's had 6 concussions in the last 2 years, and now we're wanting him to have 125 targets this season. There's worry there of injury. So I just, there's a lot of red flags to be drafting him ahead of all those other great players. I'm rooting for him. You go get him, Marquise Goodwin. Become Marquise Goodwin. You're not going to do it on my roster because you're way too expensive right now.
Yeah, somewhere between 4 or 5 concussions, I think.
4 or 5. Yeah, I mean, those are the known ones.
It could be. Since 2014.
I mean, that's
20 since 2014. It's the 6th time he's been in the protocol.
Right.
So whether or not those are all concussions or not, it is a red flag. Last year we did see maturation in Mr. Goodwin. Only 14% of his routes were the go route, the burner route. Matt Harmon just added Marquise Goodwin to the reception perception a couple of weeks ago, and you can see the route breakdown. He's certainly not a possession receiver or hasn't been used in that way.
Yeah, my argument for Marquise Goodwin was you're going back to a lot of history where a team misused not only Marquise Goodwin, Robert Woods, Chris Hogan. The Buffalo Bills were littered with talent that they wasted, as we have seen this past season. And Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't necessarily – this is not to disagree with Andy's bust take on Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't love his draft price. But in the games he appeared as the starter for San Francisco, and we're extrapolating a very small sample, but you're talking about a 4,900-yard pace. And through the preseason, if one thing is clear from Marquise Goodwin, he is the wide receiver 1 for this team. I wanted it, or I should say I projected it was going to be Pierre Garçon, but everything that Jimmy Garoppolo is throwing, all those handsome targets are telling me it's Marquise Goodwin.
All those handsome targets in 2 preseason games have swung a pendulum to where he's being drafted as a wide receiver.
And the end of last season. But no, I don't. It's all about what you brought up, though. It's about who do you take him over. That's my case against Drake. It's not like I'm never drafting Kenyan Drake. It's Henry, Ajayi, Ingram, Lynch, Deion Lewis. Those are all guys going at or after Kenyan Drake. I want them all over Kenyan Drake. Therefore, I don't think he returns value compared to those players.
Yes.
Right.
At games with Jimmy Garoppolo, Marquise Goodwin had a 99-yard game, a 106-yard game, a 114-yard game.
How many of those games included players such as Pierre Garçon and Dante Pettis?
Wow,
I'm just saying
you're going with Dante Pettis?
All
He's
I'm saying
not even
is
going to start.
What I'm saying is those games where he was the guy, he was the only guy. I mean, Trent Taylor was existed.
It's that part of the argument I think is fair, but the usage that Marquise Goodwin has seen compared to Pierre Garçon, this is I project that he's the number 1.
I genuinely hope to be wrong on this.
Let's take
I want
step.
Goodwin to have a great year.
If you step back, this is a philosophical fantasy football argument. This is about projecting the future of a player. When players change, mature, develop, everybody has their first time, right? Mm-hmm. Every player that breaks into the top 24, breaks into the top 12, they have their first year doing it. Identifying that, not just based on the historical data, is a key to fantasy football. Obviously, Mike, you're looking at it from, hey, we're seeing something new happen with Marquise Goodwin. Jason, you're saying we saw something that was more of an exploitation of opportunity with Marquise Goodwin last year as opposed to simply a level up of the player. Maybe that opportunity isn't there, and this is not a player that you can count on for 80, 90 receptions, and so you're going to need to count on touchdowns.
Yeah, Buffalo certainly could have used him wrong, but it's going to be rare for a wide receiver to break out into the upper tier in year 6.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a fair point. So we have time for some mailbag, Brooks? Can we do that?
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Mailbag.
Big old bag, yeah!
Hey,
Yeah.
speaking of mailbag, before we jump into it, just want to remind all the Foot Clan
I feel
out
very
there,
frightened here. You were pointing
Well,
at me.
because
You had a dad look in your eye.
got to make sure people know.
Okay.
There's like 20 tickets left if you want to come and see us in Phoenix tomorrow. Ballerslive.com. They're flying. It's about to sell out.
20 tickets?
If you want in,
Oh, 19.
You better go. You better go grab it right now. Ballerslive.com. Tomorrow night, show starts at 7 p.m. It's going to be, as the kids say, lit, fam.
Is
12 tickets left.
Jay Grizz going to be there?
It is Jay Grizz. What kind of a stupid question is that?
Of course he is. All right. If you have a question for the show, this show's all about you. We're here year-round answering questions to help you compete and win in your fantasy football league. Go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. Click the Submit a Question button or dial the voicemail hotline, 302-464-TFFB. We'll start with the voicemail question.
Hey guys, Noah here from Austin, Texas. So here's my problem. I have Allen Robinson, Trey Burton, and Jordan Howard on my keeper league roster. Should I be worried? Should I try to move one of them? Or can I start all 3 consistently? Thanks, guys. Bye.
Ooh,
I would be worried.
I'm worried. You can't start all 3.
2 of those 3 guys are my guys, and I'm worried because I had a really hard time keeping Jordan Howard on my guys because I didn't want 2 Bears. The Bears, look, they could take that step forward like the Rams did last year because of the change of head coach and go get them. But I do not. I want to diversify my assets. And if you're going to diversify your assets, I'm going to get rid of either Allen Robinson or Trey Burton. I'm going to keep 1 pass catcher because Jordan Howard is not quite so dependent on Trubisky. If Trubisky ends up stinking this year, Jordan Howard could have a good year and Trey Burton could still have a good year, or Allen Robinson could still have a good year. But if he stinks, it's going to be hard for all 3 to hit.
Man, Allen Robinson, I don't own him on any team. It's just been whispers. You just don't hear or see anything yet.
He's saving it all up.
I guess. All right, another voicemail.
Hey, Ballers. Steve from Chicago. I recently drafted in a 10-man PPR league, and I'm trying to winnow down my bench, and I'm torn on 3 players. So hoping you guys could help me out. I need to keep 2 of these players, so who should I keep between Chris Carson, Robbie Anderson, and Kenny Stills? Thanks so much for the help. Bye.
Well, you're keeping Carson.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the starter in Seattle right now.
Yeah.
And so you can't let go of a starting running back. So it's between Anderson and Stills. Who do you let go in that situation?
Right now, I would let go of Stills.
Yeah, as would I. And I was going to say, I respect Stills' ability. This could be the year for Stills.
I could totally agree with that.
I don't believe it's Parker. I just don't. I don't have confidence in Parker. Players don't break out after this long. Yada, yada, something goes wrong with Parker. Stills at least has been
He's
a capable,
performed
competent
before.
player. He just needs more action.
The one
I'd let him go, though, because Anderson has shown top 12 ability in multiple weeks. He's 25 years old. There's a young quarterback there. There's more opportunity for a higher ceiling.
Let me ask you this. Could you be swayed, because I feel like I could, between those 2 players, could you be swayed in week 3 of preseason? If Robbie Anderson comes out and doesn't do much and Terrell Pryor's involved and Quincy Enunwa is involved and it looks like they've got more assets than they had last year, and vice versa, Miami comes out and Kenny Stills looks kind of like he was, like he's the first read, Parker's not involved. Could you be swayed to keep Stills?
I don't think so.
Drop Anderson,
Yeah.
or you're just...
I don't think so because of Amendola and Albert Wilson and Devontae Parker and Kenyan Drake and
But I mean, that's
Gesicki. I mean, I see that as a much muddier situation to me, and you have the history of Stills being a middling wide receiver.
Here's one thing that's interesting. Sorry to cut you off, Mike, but if you look at the depth of route targets so far in the preseason of all the rookie quarterbacks, man, I know Darnold can throw the ball down the field.
Yeah, he's not, though.
But he's not.
Yeah.
And Robbie Anderson is not going to – Robbie Anderson succeeded last year because McCown was like, check this out. It's like I drop back and I watch how far I can throw it.
I guess in a PPR league you might convince me.
All right, so watch the games.
And if Marquise Goodwin was just a product of his situation where he took advantage, that was Robbie Anderson as well. But having said that, I'm going to keep Robbie over Stills at this point.
Here's a question from Eric in Youngstown, Ohio. He has a similar roster situation as my dynasty team. Says, I have Burton and Gronk on my half-point PPR 12-man league. Is Burton startable week in and week out in the flex? Should I trade Gronk for a receiver or running back? So cash in on the Gronk value.
Heck yeah.
Start Burton all year long. I could do this in my dynasty league. Right
what
now
are you
Burton's
choosing
in
to
my
do?
flex.
Is that what – do you think you're going to stay there? Let me ask you this. Over, under, or I guess percentage chance that Gronk is on your roster at the end of the year?
100% probably.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think that there's a situation where I'm going to trade Gronk and cash in on the power of Gronk just for the upside of Burton. It's a dynasty league. Burton can inherit that job for the next 5 years. I'll probably just go for the title and flex out Burton. I'm going to have to decide between him, Keelan Cole, Ryan Grant, Deshaun Jackson week to week. I'm not super comfy with him in the flex, but it's a 2-flex league. I feel okay with it.
I would trade Burton.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Gronk is gonna destroy this season.
Look, Gronk's gonna smash.
And I would wait. I would wait. Right. Probably. I would try and wait and see if Burton can
burst without Shaheen in the first few weeks.
If Burton goes off week 1,
Jason, expect a trade offer from me after week 1.
Yeah.
All right. I'll send Burton your way.
Yeah, that's great. That's fine. I will say this.
Who are you starting in that league, Jason?
There is a 10% chance that Gronk would be on my roster at the end of this year. If I had the ability to trade – when you trade Gronk, you're going to get plenty for him right now. He toyed with retiring this offseason. People were scared he was going to leave. If at the end of the year Brady leaves, what –
I thought this was a redraft league.
Wait. Is it redraft or dynasty?
I was talking about dynasty.
Yeah, you're talking about yours, though.
Yeah.
What was
but
the question?
Is a redraft league.
The question was not a dynasty league.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I was answering.
Okay, that's fair. Because I because of what Andy was saying, I thought this was a dynasty. In a dynasty, I would 100% be trading Gronk, keeping Burton, getting great value for Gronk right now, and capitalizing. In a redraft, Gronk smash. You keep him.
We got time for one more. Let's go with this one. Trey in South Carolina, do you guys think Geronimo Allison is being undervalued? Hurt Randall Cobb. Allison started in all 3 wide receiver sets. Seems like he has more upside than people realize. There have been conflicting reports on Randall Cobb in the last couple days.
From the same fella.
Yeah, first it was he's being shopped, considered to be, moving on out. Now his contract isn't really conducive to trading Randall Cobb. Could he be released? Blah, blah, blah. And then there was a report conflicting that saying he's not being shopped this morning. So throw that out. Randall Cobb, just the historical production, his age, Geronimo Allison, and the other rookies there. What do you think about this question? Is he being undervalued?
There is a reason that Geronimo Allison is a sleeper in the Ultimate Draft Kit, and that is because he is a starting wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers, who is a 40-touchdown type of fella.
40-touchdown type of fella.
Yep.
That's just
my favorite type of fella.
Hey,
his persuasion is touchdown.
Before we close out the show, I want to remind you that FanDuel right now, if you're not a fantasy expert, FanDuel is the place to play. They've got something for everyone, more ways to win. They're running that free $250,000 Survivor contest. It's the biggest free Survivor contest ever. Just pick a team each week. Make sure you get it in before week 1 because it's going to lock. If you want in on that free $250,000 Survivor contest, just go to FanDuel.com/footballers. That's FanDuel.com/footballers. Plus, new users get a $20 bonus when they make their first deposit on FanDuel. Come play at FanDuel.com/footballers.
All right. Stay tuned. Fantasy Footballers episode tomorrow, a live mock draft.
Speaking of things
hot.
that are not mock draft, it's a draft for real. Best ball, draft.com/ballers. See you tomorrow, Footclan. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.